kicking my feet as I'm moving to the music. Step to the beat, I woke up today, canceled all my plans, and I stepped right outside with my guitar in my hands, and the notes became loud as the sound caressed.
And the crowd goes wild. We are live, baby, on a Monday at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Not on normal time, but we're going to do this thing anyways on a Monday at 5 o'clock. The Monday blues, whatever you might have, we're here to try to cure that. If not, send all your hate mail to Andrew from the GFQ Network. Thanks for co-hosting with me today, Andrew. How you doing?
Was that Monday booze or Monday blues? Because if you're talking about booze, I'm dying to have a drink.
Either or, man. Blues, booze, and I can use all kinds of rhyming words. But, man, thank you so much. 5 minutes in, you've been doing a marathon today of just you've been covering the Apple announcements, and you just did Stephen Haywood's show. And, 5 minutes in, my co-host says, hey, I got car problems. I'm not going to be able to make the show. So thank you so much for filling in for Eric today, man. I really appreciate it.
Listen, no problem. I've been on the air for 5 hours already, so what's another hour?
Do you ever get crazy sitting in there and get stir crazy?
Oh, I literally stare at a painting of myself all day long. I think it's too late. I've already lost my mind.
Wait a minute, you have a painting that you stare at yourself?
I literally, right across from me is a painting that a viewer did of me, and I just stare at the wall all day waiting for the next day to start. I mean, that's pretty much what my life has become.
It's a sad day. Are you on medication or anything?
Oh, man, I wish.
Well, anyways, hey, this show is about creativity and pushing the boundaries of creativity. And we like to, on this show, to interview people that have pushed the boundaries of creativity and take it to a next level. And I'm so excited today to have this guest on with us. His name's Derek Hoiem. And a little background for his story. Hey, say hi, Derek.
Hey, what's up?
Derek Hoiem is a legend when it comes to the internet. He's not, well, I will say, go ahead and give him the scoop of your background. You worked at a little place called Microsoft.
Yeah, so I came straight out of college to Microsoft in 1989 as an intern when there was 2,500 employees, and we didn't even have central servers at Microsoft for finding the products. Like if you wanted to install Excel, you had to go to Building 2 to the hall of the Excel guys and talk to one of the developers to install it. So that was the Wild West days. So then I became basically a user interface designer, product designer at Microsoft. Worked on a bunch of different projects there, and including what became Windows 95, and included the Start button. Although it was a team effort, I was one of many people, but I was definitely in the design rooms and saw how it all evolved.
So, I mean, I think I asked you this, but I'm going to ask you this too. And Andrew, if you have any questions, feel free to chime in too as well.
Oh, I have a ton,
okay.
Jeff.
Okay. So, hey, Derek, basically, you kind of gave me a tour one time. I flew out to Seattle. You kind of gave me a tour. You kind of drove me around Microsoft and go, hey, there was Bill Gates' office and whatnot. What was like in that time when the boom of computers were getting into every American home in the United States of America? What was the excitement level like working at Microsoft at that time?
Actually, that's a great question, because you felt like you were changing the world every day. And I imagine that working at Apple or Google right now has that same kind of vibe. I mean, because everything that they're doing is, literally changing the world with, obviously this, I kind of think of it as, well, kind of a third wave, because you had the PCs, then you had the web, the internet, and then now you have mobile. And so, yeah, it definitely was very electric. The stock price was going through the roof every day. Literally, people would cheer before meetings when they would bring up the stock ticker. But I don't think that's happening at Microsoft right now.
No,
but
there's a lot of issues.
I wouldn't count them out. I mean, the Windows Phone definitely looks pretty interesting. And even seeing the new announcement today with what they're doing with iOS 7, I think Windows 8 and the Windows 8 phone, definitely they're in that genre and realm, right, hot on the heels. And even though it looks like they're a latecomer and way behind and have a few points of market share, I would not count Microsoft out to be a leader and be stealing market share from Android.
Actually, I'm dying to know when Windows 95 came out, that really changed computing in the sense that everybody was using Windows at that point. I mean, Windows 95 changed everything. While you were working on it and your team was working on it, did you know that this was going to be a home run? Like when you guys first ran that final version of that you did, or whatever version, a preview version, did you say, "Oh my God, this is going to change everything"?
I don't think we knew to the extent to which it was going to change everything. I think we knew it was a pretty cool product, and I guess to rewind a little bit and to give you guys some Microsoft history, and this is kind of the unofficial stuff that you don't see in the press, or at least not widely, but basically, back in the day, you had Windows 3.0. And Windows 3.0 really was the game changer, because what it allowed you to do was multitask DOS apps. So if you remember back in those days, Lotus 123 was the spreadsheet that had like 95% market share, and WordPerfect was the word processor that also had like 95% market share. And so when Windows 3.0 came out, you could multitask Lotus 123 and WordPerfect. And because of that, it sold like crazy. And that was the thing that really ignited the Microsoft stock price in the late 80s. And so what happened was they were working on point releases. So there was a Windows 3.1, which was like a performance increase. And then there was basically, well, I think that was just Windows 3.1. And then we were working on what was going to be known as Windows 4. And that was going to be built on the Windows NT code base. And so there was this whole big engineering effort to bring like a next generation user interface on top of the Windows NT code base. And that was going to be Windows 4. And that project was called Cairo. And Cairo had just some incredibly talented people on it. And one of the guys actually who was running the user interface effort, his name was Mark Malamed, and he really was the main person behind the start button, because we knew that we had been studying the Mac for some time, and we were looking at how do people create this irrational bonding, we called it, with the Mac, and how can we capture some of that magic and capture it in Windows. And so, Mark Malamed's team had come up with what's now known as the taskbar. There was various iterations of it that did different functions. We had a Windows logo that we knew we wanted to be kind of the central location where people could start everything with their computer. And that was, even to this day, the Apple UI the Finder UI still suffers that same problem. It's like, if you put a newbie computer user in front of it, they don't know where to go, where to start, anything like that. And so we were like, hey, let's provide that place in the user interface that everybody can go to.
Did you guys experience, what should we call it? I don't know. Maybe we should just call it the start button.
Well, yeah. I mean, we were testing it. And back in the day, you got to remember, there were still huge swaths of the population who had either never used a computer before or only used one at work, for 5% of their job. And so we were testing this out with brand new computer users, grandmas and, junior high kids, and really all over the map. And we were kind of benchmarking their performance. And so when we put them down in front of the Mac, or we put them in front of Windows, we clearly saw that there was just not this central location. I mean, even if we had the Windows logo there, people still would be like, what? Where am I going? I don't get this. What? And then we played around with the idea of, I think I may have been the one. I don't know, because it was group team meetings. But I remember we had very intense debates as to, do we put a textual clue next to it? And early prototypes, we had a message that would slide across the taskbar and then say, click here. and not everybody would see that. And so we eventually came up with the word start. Let's put the word start there. And when we started usability testing that, immediately, boom. I mean, within 2 seconds, you could put anybody who had never used a computer before, and they would click on that button, and then it was success from there.
And that's when you knew Microsoft was a baller. The fact that that you created the startup window and then you go out and purchase the Start Me Up song from the Rolling Stones and use that for a marketing gimmick. Whose idea was that?
So here's a funny story. So I'll tell you a little bit more. I'll address that question, but I'll tell you a bit more about the Cairo project. So what happened was the Cairo project, this Windows 4 thing, was taking so long to get to market that they decided, management was like, hey, we need more cash flow. We got to get a project out. It had been a couple years before there was a product rev, and so they said, all right, what we should do is let's take some of the user interface components that we've been developing for Cairo, and let's put it on top of the Windows 3.1 code base. And so that's what they did, and that project became known as Chicago, and Chicago became Windows 95. And so longer term, after Windows 95 came out and was hugely successful, then they actually killed the Cairo project. And that was a very sad day for the entire company. So Jeff, so your question was about the party. So yeah, so a bunch of us who had been working on this stuff, these user interface elements, the start button, everything, the marketing team loved the start button. They ran with it, booked Jay Leno and the and the Rolling Stones, I think, in New York for the launch party. And then they had actually a smaller launch party out on the Microsoft campus in a tent. I think Jay Leno was at that one. And a bunch of us, we couldn't even get in. They didn't even invite us. Where I remember sitting on the outside of the tent going, hey, we're the ones that worked on this, and like, we can't even get in here. This is hilarious.
That's
you guys couldn't get in.
We couldn't get in, yeah.
That's the Tonight Show, man. I mean, literally, if you have an artist that goes on a Tonight Show, and normally the labels that represented the artist, even the managers couldn't get on the set of the Tonight Show. There was only one person that could go with the group. It didn't matter who it was. There was only one person. And normally the labels, like back in the day, like Wind Up Records, their rep would say, well, you guys can't go, I'm going. I work at the label. And so when these bands would play the Tonight Show, you couldn't get on. You couldn't, even as a manager, you couldn't even get on the Tonight Show because some guy at a label says, I'm going. No exception.
Basically, that person for Windows 95 was a guy named Joe Belfiore, who is to this day a vice president at Microsoft. I think he's in charge of, like Windows Media and Xbox and other things. I think that's what he's in charge of now. I don't know, because of course they're always reconfiguring things. But Joe Belfiore is a well-known personality in the company, really great guy, and he was that spokesperson for the Cairo and the Chicago teams and all the user interface innovations that we made.
And what did you guys do? Did you guys just sit in a bar across the street and watch a show later in LA? What did you guys do?
We literally sat outside the tent. I remember standing outside the launch tent where all these media people were packed in, and Jay Leno was on the inside, and we're just literally holding a party cup with punch in it.
That's ridiculous. That you guys.
Yeah.
I got this startup window. I can't.
I think what's funny, and this is why it's fun to talk about it now, is the fact that they lopped it off in Windows 8, and now they're bringing it back in Windows 8.1. And I think what's crazy is knowing that it had longevity, like that. It's just hard to even fathom that what we had been doing back in the early 90s would stick around till now.
I mean, the whole idea that it happened 18 years ago and it continued on. Were you, when they took it away, what was your feeling? Was it like, okay, well, it's about time they got rid of it? Or were you like, well, this is my baby and I worked on this?
I actually kind of liked what the Windows team came up with the whole new start screen. I think it kept the spirit of the start button. So I was not sad to see it go. But I think what surprised me was the backlash that came out after they removed it. just from people, and knowing that that's just a comforting part of the Microsoft experience. So I was kind of cool with it, but having used Windows 8 myself now, I'm like, I can see why people want it back.
I mean, you think Bill Gates? Do you think Bill Gates is actually content that he owns the Rolling Stone song? What is he going to do with that song, for crying out loud?
Well, I think he owns a lot of things, Jeff.
He owns us, right? He owns us. We don't even know it.
How much it is? What?
Go ahead.
I was going to say that, actually what's kind of cool as far as rock and roll goes is, Bill Gates's partner, the guy that used to own the Seahawks, I'm trying to remember the other billionaire co-founder of Microsoft, Paul Allen. He actually built a big rock and roll museum right at the base of the Space Needle here in Seattle called the Experience Music Project, which is really super cool. And if you're ever in Seattle, you got to come check it out.
I didn't see that one time. I was down there like 2 years ago, and it was early morning. I was still on East Coast time, and I left the hotel from one of the bands I was working with, and I walked all the way to the Needle. It was real early in the morning, and I just bolted there, and I just walked. I probably walked like 5 miles to get there, and I ended up working from the Space Needle, but I didn't see anything like that. I wanted to stop by. Where exactly is it by the Space Needle?
It literally, like, the Space Needle is in a park called Seattle Center, and the Experience Music Project is literally just like a few hundred yards from the base of the Space Needle.
You know what? I think I did see that. I did, because when I actually got down there, it was like 8:30 in the morning, and it wasn't open. I know exactly what you're talking about now. Yeah.
Yeah, and actually Paul Allen had created it to basically house his Jimi Hendrix collection. He has the largest collection of Jimi Hendrix paraphernalia. Like, he has the full-on, like, mixing desk, speakers, everything from Jimmy's Electric Lady Studios in New York, and he has it, in a storage unit somewhere, and every couple years they bring it out to the Experience Music Project.
And that's it. And that's interesting when we're talking about music, because it seems like the internet gods, what we like to call them, are the new rock stars of today. I mean, basically, back in the day, the 80s and 90s, the rock stars and musicians would actually have the power and influence. It seems like now, with social media and all these different websites and all these things that came out, just blew our minds. Apple, Microsoft, you name it, they are the rock stars now. And when I say this, it's kind of interesting that we're going to go into this, is the fact that it seems like a lot of these tech heads are the new rock stars, but they have such a love and passion for music. And I know you have a strong passion for music. And where did it exactly stem from?
Yeah, well, that's a good question. I just think that a lot of tech guys, play guitar and are in bands and stuff at night and on weekends. And it's kind of their dream job. Now, I was kind of lucky enough or stupid enough to actually pull the trigger on that and pursue it as a second career. So now I work in the music industry, have my own independent label, and we're marketing stuff literally all over the world, and have bands that are going all over the world.
And why in God's name did you decide to do that, Derek?
I do not know. I do not know, man. So God told me to do it, so here I am doing it. And it's pretty crazy. So yeah, it's good, because I feel like in a lot of ways, especially, with the way that iTunes has been, so revolutionary in changing the marketplace, my tech background has been the perfect ingredients for trying to participate and compete in today's marketplace. And for those of you who don't know, Jeff Adams and I, we collaborate on an internet radio station called Jam the Hype. You can go to jamthehype.com, check it out. And we have a 24/7 stream, iPhone, Android app, and we're starting to live stream more concerts and events. And this is the future. This is the future of music, is having these platforms that you can launch from.
It is the future. And, and speaking of which, I mean, like what Andrew's doing at the GFQ Network, we're, with Jam the Hype, it's, an online, radio station, obviously, and we're getting into like the broadcasting side. But Andrew, he has his, own network, GFQ. I mean, how many shows do you have on the network, Andrew?
Oh, God, like 15 shows, Jeff.
15 shows. So,
Yeah.
Andrew's always sitting behind that desk, you know, producing or hosting shows, Derek. If you get a chance, check out some of his programming. I mean,
awesome.
it's where we want to take Jam the Hype eventually.
Yeah.
So I think we're close to break here. But before we go to break, when we come back, if there's any, you know, questions in the chat room, people want to, you know, ask Derek about Microsoft. If Andrew, you have any more questions about Microsoft, you know, what I really want to know when we get back from break is the fact is, you know, why did you stay in Seattle and you're not on some island somewhere, you know, sipping a cold one? And
I ask myself that same question every day, Jeff.
all right, Steven, let's go ahead and take a break, and we'll be right back after this short break here.
Jam the Hype, your source for positive hip-hop and R&B. Now on your smartphone or tablet. Playing new music from
Boy, I know
Lecrae.
that I'm foolish, running off at the tulips. Probably wooing all the cruelest, persecutors, the foes. Catch me.
Fizzle.
Fresh up off that plane, touchdown in my city. Flew around the world with this bird on my feet.
Jacob.
In the world is such a beautiful place. I know that we can make it.
Flame.
No, I don't do this so the industry can't know my name. Boy, I do this on purpose.
V-Rose. On our smartphone app, you'll get 24/7 streaming radio, interviews, videos, interact with other music fans, and get live TV broadcasts covering positive hip-hop and R&B events. Now, on the Apple iOS Store and Google Play, Jam the Hype, changing lives with positive hip-hop and R&B. Now on your smartphone or tablet. Jam the Hype, your positive hip-hop and R&B channel.
Oh, we are here live on the Jeff Adams Show with co-host today, Andrew from the GFQ Network, hanging out. He's been doing a Jerry Lewis telethon all day long covering Apple. And, you know, 5 minutes till I said, hey, man, can you co-host? He's like, yeah, why not? I've been on the air for 6 hours. And
why not at this point, right?
What's that?
After hour 4, I think it's whatever you do. It's fun. I don't want to get up anyway. So
The only thing we're
I'm
missing
enjoying
right
it, though.
now is you know, a telephone number where people can call in and donate money. And
I'll be
all
doing
the
a song and a dance afterwards.
yeah, all the cheesy dance numbers, and you know, we'd be set. We could do a telethon. Maybe we should do that sometime. Do a 24-hour telethon and raise money. That'd be great.
I would love to. I think that's a great idea.
Maybe we could raise like $10, $15, something like that.
Maybe $20 if we're lucky.
But hey, we are talking to Derek Hoiem, one of the creators of the startup Microsoft button, Start Me Up. That's what I want to know. I want that song, man. I want that song for my catalog because the publishing on that alone is crazy. Bill Gates probably still makes a killing off that song.
Yeah, I bet.
So Derek,
Hey, is Andrew a tech guy?
what's that?
So Andrew, are you a big tech guy?
Somewhat. I mean, I consider myself an enthusiast more than anything else.
And what's your favorite platform?
You know, I'm using a Mac every day now, but all my production machines are Windows machines.
Ah, interesting. Are you running Windows 8 yet?
No. I installed it on one of my machines, and I had severe driver issues with one of the sound cards that we use. So I
So you're still
uninstalled
you're running
it the
Windows
same day.
95?
What was that?
You're running Windows 95?
NT4 actually.
Oh, okay. Yeah, there you go.
I'm on. I've upgraded to NT4.
Cairo. He's running Cairo.
Yes,
running Cairo.
right. Yeah, that was the product that everybody wanted to be running.
So Derek, you know, before we went to break, I asked you a very important question. I know you said God gave you the mission to, you know, start a music label, but man, I tell you, if it's one thing, you jumping out of being successful, I mean, from a creative standpoint, were you just like, were you just looking for something to do? Or were you bored afterwards, after, you got out, you cashed out and everything? And why music? Was it something that you were always fascinated with? I know you have, where you're sitting right now, you have actually a recording studio that you're in. And how did you decide to make that transition? Why not go back into another, big internet type situation?
Yeah, I think for me it was, I just, I had worked at Microsoft for about a dozen years, and the last 5 or 6 years there, I was actually doing design for the Visual Studio development suite. So those of you who write software out there, or code in HTML and write CSS and everything, I worked on and have patents for the menu system in Visual Studio, some of the help system in Visual Studio, worked on a lot of different aspects of it. And actually the whole windowing model and everything with tabs and snap and all that stuff that's in Windows 8, I had done a lot of the foundations for. And I was just, honestly, I was just burned out. I mean, like any other tech job, even if, like, I heard, like, Steve Jobs, when they did the original iPhone, it was just like the baton death march, to try and get that thing done. And I just needed a break. I just really, really needed a break. And my family is pretty musical. My mom actually ran a record store in Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada, back in the 50s. And she's got a really cool autograph book of all these like jazz greats and everything that were coming through in that time. Duke Ellington, George Shearing, Satchmo, and so I just, it's just part of my upbringing that I appreciated music, loved music, and I guess I always had a dream of wanting to engineer, like do recording engineering. So I would come in after I quit Microsoft. I started to build the place that I'm in right now, and then just would come in afternoons and mess around, and I'd just grab some musicians from church to come over, and we would experiment. I'd experiment on them, and that's kind of how I started my label.
And how long have you been doing the label? How long have you actually been in it?
A little over 10 years now.
And is it everything you ever dreamed of doing?
I would say yes, it is. It really is. I mean, I think what's been awesome, what's cool about the music business, it could not be more opposite than software, where everything's controlled and you're telling computers what to do through code and it just does it. Like, humans are unpredictable and crazy and irrational.
You mean artists?
Totally nonsensical.
Artists are cuckoo. They're just
right
out there, man.
And that just gets worse when you put in the whole artist part of it, on top of the humanness part of it. And it's crazy and fun and frustrating, and yeah, sometimes you just want to kill yourself, and of course it's killed my checkbook like you can't believe.
Yeah. So what was that transition from, working with people in the tech sector to working with musicians and artists? What were some parallels, and what are some major differences with the different types of people in each industry?
Oh, that's a good question. Well, software developers, are more introverted, and I think what's interesting is that when you get down to really creative artists, like you think of, I don't know, I'm thinking of like a Michael Jackson or somebody like that. Really, I think there's a lot of parallels between him and a software developer, because a lot of what I've noticed of artists of that type is you get them off stage and they're very introverted. But you put them on the stage in front of people, and it's like they have this personality that comes up that's just larger than life. Jeff, have you seen that in your management journey?
Yes, I'm the same type of person.
Yes.
I relate.
You're totally opposite, on the Jeff Adams Show than in real life.
Yeah. and my wife says, "Are you boozing it up or something? What are you doing?" And I'm just like, "No, man. I just put me in a room and put me in front of 10,000 people. I used to be an artist. I can turn into this different person. And but if I'm chilling, I'm not going to compete with you for domination of conversation. And a lot of artists are like that. Not all of them are like that, because a lot of them are excuse the language, they're attention hoes. They have to have the attention all the time. But some artists just, they're very, especially the real artsy fartsy ones, they're really to themselves. They stick to themselves, but you get them on a stage or you get them in the recording studio, they're brilliant. And this whole other side comes out of them. And it's a really amazing thing. But it's also, if you're trying to, manage that, those type of personalities, it's very, very difficult, because you're playing babysitter on many, many levels. It's just like you're looking over, their shoulder 24/7, make sure they're doing all the right things. So it's a very interesting industry. But if I was Derek Hoiem, what I would have done? I would have took something, and I would have took some of the cash, and I would have looked and think of all the things the opportunity that you probably could have had, but you can't. That's the cool thing about it. I mean, look at me. I mean, I just dropped all of my management clients, and I'm living on a prayer, because I have a dream. And I'm 40 years old, and I wanted to be creative and take that leap of faith and just step out. As yourself, you were kind of with I was with Microsoft 10 years, kind of burned out. I feel like I'm in the same place where you were at, where I'm like, I'm taking a leap of faith and I'm getting out of this, and I want to go do this now.
Right.
I respect that a lot, because a lot of people don't have the cojones to do that. I mean, because they're stuck in a rut. You might have someone that delivers paint for a living. They got 4 kids and they have a dream, but they're not able to step out and make their dream become a reality. What would you say to some of these people out here that do have a dream but are kind of stuck in the day-to-day of just common life, where they don't have the ability to get out and do something? Obviously you had, you were taken care of by Microsoft, so you were able to do that a little bit better than the rest of us probably could. But what would you say for encouragement of people that want to take this creative idea, like even with Andrew did with the GFQ Network? I mean, he took this idea, what was it, 3 or 4 years ago, Andrew, and you started a network.
Yeah, I left my job, and I stayed at home, and I told my wife I'm not going back. I had just gotten married too. I had just gotten married, bought a house, bought a car, and I started doing a podcast, and I told her I'm not going back to work. I mean, that's pretty much how it started. And she looked at me and said, "Oh my God, what did I get myself into? You are a crazy person."
Was there marriage counseling involved in that?
No, but I guarantee you, everybody thought I was insane. I just had dinner with one of my closest friends, and my wife was there. She was there, and she turned to me and said, "I was really close to calling everybody and starting an intervention, because I thought you lost your mind." And all I could think was, poor Jess, how is she dealing with this?
Yeah, it's like that when you have a dream. I mean, like Derek, we're pretty close buds, like from a standpoint with your significant other, your wife. When you told her you wanted to get in the music industry, what was her overall thoughts on that?
Well, she said, definitely not my passion. Yeah, I mean, she's been a tolerant fan. Let me just put it that way. She tolerates it. At least she's seen over these last 10 years, she's seen how we've built something that means something, and we have a brand and a reputation in the industry. So I think that's helped a ton.
Yeah.
And even to this day, it's hard, because we're hanging in there by our fingernails financially to keep this thing going. But, Jeff, back to your question about what would I tell people who kind of are afraid to leave a dead-end job, or, they're just on the grind, on the gerbil wheel every day. I would say, passion trumps everything, and life is too short to be stuck in a dead-end job. So I think there's ways of doing it. You can start small, and if they always say that you really have 3 parts to your day. You have the morning, you have the afternoon, and you have the evening. And when you really look at how you spend your time and what you're spending those 3 chunks of the day on, especially if you're in a 9-to-5 job, you can find a couple hours every single night, especially if you're really passionate about something. You can spend a couple hours every night starting to do your passion, and on the weekends and stuff too. And I think there is a point where you start to have to say, okay, well, I might cut my hours back, or I might find another job that's in my field where I don't have to show up 9 to 5 every day. Either doing, telephone work or sales, or, there's a lot of jobs that don't involve having to go into an office from 9 to 5 or 9 to 6. So if you can find something that's in your field that doesn't do that, where you don't have that tied down, where you're making your own hours, then that gives you also the flexibility to pursue your passions.
I'll tell you, you guys are totally speaking my language, and to kind of hear this from other people, it's almost like this. It's like, wow, okay, I'm not the only one that thinks this. I think the biggest problem that people face, and I here in New York, I have a ton of people I know a ton of people that are in the ad business and the sales business, and a lot of them are out of work. And all these people have some sort of passion. Some of them are musicians, some of them are bloggers, some of them are artists. Mm-hmm. But you know what they're doing? They're now laid off. They're getting unemployment. They're looking for jobs. But you know what they're doing? They're not continuing their passion. And I tell them all the time, I'm like, you know what? You're in a really good situation right now, and you should look at it as a sign or some sort of blessing in disguise that now you have the time to continue your passion or start something new rather than, just sitting here and waiting for the phone to ring for a new job. And I think a lot of people have these passions, but they fear taking the risk. I think that's what it is. I think we're conditioned to automatically default to the safe job rather than what's going to make us happy.
Yeah. I started teaching music business at a local university here. And when I get my first class of college kids each year, I ask them, I say, okay, how many people in the room here want a job in the music industry? And of course, the whole room is raising their hand. And I tell them, well, bad news, people, there are no jobs in the music industry, but you can create one. And that's how you get a job in the music industry. And I think that's true of your passion. You have to create your job. And if you can't create your job, then you don't have a job. It's that simple. And
I think it's this concept of what the music industry was in like the 70s and 80s, this is cool hip vibe where everybody's creative and everybody's making some money and everybody's enjoying their job. But that concept of the music industry is totally out the window.
Yeah. But I think it applies to really every other really career. I mean, like people may go look at the Apple, announcements and stuff today and go, hey, I have a dream of working at Apple someday. It's like, well, great. How are you gonna create the job there? How are you gonna start to learn to code iPhone apps? You're gonna have to put the hours in and start taking steps to go do it. So
well, I think too, this is a good thing. Especially for those that don't know that's just tuning in. Derek owns JamTheHype.com, which I am a consultant for. And, one of my jobs there is to build out the broadcast platform for the network. And I'm very honored to have Andrew on the show, the GFQ Network. And Andrew, what you could possibly say from a standpoint of having all these shows? How many shows did you start off originally with when you started off the network?
Yeah, so when I started, I had this idea for like a comedy-based podcast for a couple of years, and I just could never find someone to do it with me. One of my buddies, he's a really well-known stand-up comic here in New York. His name is Kunal Arora. He was just starting out in comedy, and he came to me with the same idea. He's like, you know what? I want to do this comedy show. I don't want it to be too crazy over the top, but I want us to have fun doing it. And we just recorded a podcast one day. He was sitting in one end of the house. I was in the other, and we Skyped each other and recorded the conversation. It was utterly awful, but we started putting it out on social media sites, and all of our friends started downloading it. So we said, wow, we're getting like 200, 300 downloads from this. Let's hook up a camera. Let's start doing it live. So that kind of grew from there. But, we had my show, the Andrew Zarian Show, for a while. We did that. And we just added more and more shows. So one of my buddies would come over. He's like, you know what? I want to do a car show. Okay, boom, right there. Next week we had a car show. I wanted to do a tech show, so I started doing a tech show. Now I do it with Paul Thurrott, which is a Microsoft journalist and blogger. So, I slowly started piecing everything together. It wasn't overnight that I said, I'm going to have 10 or 15 shows a week. I just did whatever felt comfortable for me. And some shows worked and some shows didn't. I canned them and I continued doing it. And as long as my money was coming in, I knew I was doing something right.
Right. I mean, that's a good indication. I mean, me and Derek, yeah, we how many shows? I mean, we streamed only like, let's see, three things so far, Derek?
Yeah, about that. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Like
and
it's like live concert events. Yeah.
yeah, so what we do, Andrew, is we go in there and we do like, we set up like a red carpet. We basically come in there like an MTV setup used to do back in the day and just like broadcast live and interview artists. We did it down at South by Southwest.
Oh,
and
great.
we did it like a year ago, back in October down here in Florida, a place called Flavor Fest where a lot of, hip hop artists were at. So basically that's what we're doing with the platform with jamthehype.com, which has been a hoot for me to do because I'm able to do this Jeff Adams show and, test things out, network, and Stephen Haywood too. I mean, I got Stephen Haywood involved. He's going to actually help out and produce down in Florida here in October for this big event that we're going to actually do. So it's been a lot of fun doing that. And someone that has a background like Derek, he's got a ton of vision. But the cool thing about as him being a leader, a CEO of a company, when people have ideas, he goes, "Hey, that's a great idea," or he'll go, "Hey, that's a horrible idea." So here's the thing with our show too is, a lot of people have ideas, and Andrew and Derek, you can chime in here. A lot of people have good ideas. But what makes it a great idea that will actually work? I mean, I used to judge a ton. I'd get invited as, this A&R panel, and I would have to sit through all these lame people that think they could sing and do all this crazy stuff that really couldn't do it. What would you say to someone that says, "Hey, I have the desire to do this, but they don't have the ability to do it"? What would you tell those people? I mean, how would you break it to them more than anything?
Who's going first?
Okay, you want me to go, Andrew?
You go, yeah.
Well, you know what? I saw this great quote from the trumpet player Wynton Marsalis on the side of a Starbucks cup one day. And all he said was this: "The humble improve." And I thought that, man, that captures really everything about being in the music industry and being successful in the music industry and really life in general. And to me, that's been a theme of like, be a lifelong learner and don't think you're all that. Because if you think you're all that, and that's what's embarrassing about watching like American Idol and stuff, is seeing these people come in and they're horrible and they think they're so awesome. And you need to be the exact opposite. No matter how great you are, you need to come in with a humble attitude and say, "Hey, I'm here in front of these amazing judges. I'm here having this experience. I'm here to learn how this is all going to work. Just happy to be here. Let me sing for you." And that's just so rare. It's so rare to get that. And Jeff, those are the kind of people that you want to work with. And those are the kind of people that get gigs. And I've even seen that really in the tech industry too. Like, people want to work with those type of people.
But here's the thing, right? I mean, this is what I'm really trying to get. I'm not trying to be rude. I'm not trying to be like and squash people's dreams. I'm not. But I'm using this as an example. I went to a music conference one time. No, twice. One time there was this girl who had Down syndrome, and I kid you not. I'm not trying to make fun of the situation, but she had this microphone on, and she had a headset. I think the first time I saw her was in Kansas City, and it was just embarrassing, to the point where I was mad at the parents for putting her in that situation. Then a year later, I'm in North Carolina, same event, different place. She's there again. And she's up there and I wouldn't say she was Down syndrome. She was a little bit slow. All right. I shouldn't say Down syndrome. That's taken to the extreme. But, she had the microphone and then she just bolts out and then like this bridge. You remember back in the day, you had those cassette players and you would like bootleg tapes. You would put the other cassette player next to the other cassette player and you press record. And so you could play the tape. Well, that's how she was using her tracks. She would like hit record and put a tape player next to it. So, this was like 3 or 4 years ago. So the recording, you could actually hear like and the track start, and it sounded horrible. And then she's up there, and it was just awkward. And then there was like this bridge part. She couldn't sing a lick. And then there was this bridge part. She goes, "Praise the Lord, I have a swimming pool." And I got so mad that I said, you know what? I know it's not my job, but I'm going to go talk to the parents of this child. And because why do that? Everybody was laughing in the room. Why do that to somebody when it's not really their gig? And then I talked to the parents, and she said, the church we attend, they encourage her. I said, well, let her do it in the church. And she goes, well, she enjoys doing this, and this is something she likes to do. So why not let her do it? I go, but you have people like laughing at her. That's not good for self-esteem. And she goes, well, it's something she wants to do, and I'm going to let her do it. And I was like, okay, so even with the people that don't have the talent, Andrew and Derek, chime in on this, because there's a lot of people out there that want to do something. Hey, I want to design this cool new website, or I want to sing, or I want to have this new cool online show, but don't have the ability to do it. What would you tell those people straight up?
Derek hit the nail on the head. I just want to add something to it. Be humble, but also be confident. There are a lot of people out there that are musicians, that are radio personalities, and they may not be the best. I mean, that's a possibility. Not everybody is great. I never say that I'm great. You know what I tell people? People tell me, like, well, what do you think? Like, rate yourself. I say, I'm consistently good. I'll consistently put out decent content. Is it great? No. Sometimes it's a really good show, but I don't think I'm great. And you know what? For 4 years, I should not be great, and I should never think I'm great. On the other hand, I know musicians. A lot of my buddies are musicians, and the ones that are not successful are the ones who think they are the best thing on the planet. They have this mindset of what a rock star is, and it's not the reality, and they're not humble. And you know what? These people do not do really well. I mean, listen, if you're extremely talented, you're going to get pushed, and you get good management, you're going to get pushed. But the majority of these people that have that attitude will not continue doing this. I met a recording artist recently. I had a chance to interview her. She was on The Voice. Her name is Charlotte Sometimes. And this girl was so humble, really nice, really sweet. And I was thinking, like, what an excellent example to set as someone that has been playing an instrument, singing since they were 14, extremely talented, and just not a jerk.
It's hard to find.
It's really hard to find, because I've interviewed people that have had zero exposure, and they think that, this is how you're supposed to behave if you're, in this role. Same thing with radio people. I know radio people that cannot separate their on-air personality from who they really are. It gets blurred.
Yeah, and speaking of that too, it's like being humble in what you do, and you should never be too big to do something. And when I was, managing one of those groups that I work with, anybody that used to email me for an interview, I would never really turn them down, because it's an opportunity for exposure. It doesn't matter if it's a podcast. It doesn't matter if it's an online show or a radio show, AM dial. It's exposure, and it really helps it really helps build, people's dreams. I mean, same thing. I was emailing early this morning, and I got up like at 5 o'clock. I was emailing some people for, having guests on the show. And, I got one response today, and I kind of say it from William Shatner's people, and he's like, oh, he's not interested in doing the show. Well, they probably didn't even watch the show, and I understand some people are too big to do certain things, but you got to stay humble. And the cool thing about entertainment, you have to be able to raise other people up, and there's room for growth for everybody in this thing. But the music industry and Hollywood in general has this closed circuit thing, and that's what I love about the internet. We can do whatever we want to do, and Hollywood's not holding us by the neck, and we can be as creative as we possibly can, and come on and do whatever shows we want to do. And Hollywood can't dictate that. We can build our own fan base. That's the beauty of stepping out and doing something like this, which is amazing. Isn't that right, Derek?
Yeah, I mean, social media has been the killer app for the internet. And I think that, obviously digital distribution of, audio and video now, and now even live streaming. I remember thinking, back in the late 90s, it was around 1997, I had seen like streaming video for the first time. And I was like, man, they're never going to get this right. I mean, the frame rates, there's just too much data to move. It just never will happen. And I was so wrong on that. Like, this is game changing. So it's cool to see how, the technology has evolved enough, and we have these other pieces, the internet, social networking, bandwidth, and now even mobile devices, to allow people to get audiences like never before in history. And I think that this is gonna be a trend that continues. Like, a lot of people have been talking about, how does streaming change the music industry? Like, even with Apple launching the iRadio today, and like, I think there's room for, I call it kind of like micro broadcasting, and you'll be able to get enough interest and people that you can get advertisers, you can get purchases and selling merchandise and everything around it, that you can actually support yourself. And YouTube has really been the proof of that. It's amazing to me. Like, I saw stats once that said, like, the annoying orange guy on YouTube makes like $125,000 a year through YouTube ads, and he just gets to sit around and make stupid orange cartoons.
Well, he's on the Cartoon Network now too. I caught my kids watching on the Cartoon
Network. That, and then now he's doing multi-million-dollar media deals, and this is open to anybody now.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. I mean, if you don't have to get network numbers. I mean, you talk about failures on television, right? I was reading a review about a show that failed, and the show got, I think, something like 340,000 views. Nielsen rating, Nielsen families, 340,000 people watched the show. And you're thinking, they're saying, well, this is such a failure. The show is, nobody's watching the show. 340,000 views a week on the internet. You are making bank. You are making a ton of money if you're getting 340,000 views a week.
Yeah,
think of the difference. I mean, you're measured as a tremendous success if that's what's happening on the internet, but on television, that's a failure.
Yeah, and the crazy thing about TV is it's content. I mean, I watch more podcasts and video podcasts more than anything. I watch a lot of shows on the GFQ Network. Big fans of some of the shows on there because it's quality. I mean, half of the stuff that I find on the internet is so much better than what's on TV. And plus, I don't have to, pay, $1.99 to go download it on iTunes, to go watch a TV series. I can download it for free and watch it. And and I'm entertained. I mean, I'd get on a plane, watch some GFQ Network, watch, Steven shows, and sit there, and I'd be in LA, and I'd be like, wow, that was an entertaining trip. I was entertained. That's the cool thing about, the broadcasting stuff and being creative and having vision and being a musician. I would tell musicians the same thing with this video stuff. When I got to test out Ustream and Mogulus, which is now live stream, I would say, artists, man, get on here and do your thing. This is a platform that's, you can connect with your fans like never before. Get your guitar out, play some tunes, give it to them for free, and communicate with your network and your fans and build fans. That's the amazing thing.
I tell that to every musician. Every musician that I know and I run into, that is exactly what I say. Listen, you want to reach out to your audience. You want to create a new audience. People want to watch an unfiltered, this one-on-one connection that you could build with your audience. Go on Stick'em, go on Ustream, you go on whatever, and just start playing the guitar and singing or whatever you're doing. I'm telling you, you're going to pick up viewers. And every one of them that does it comes back to me to go, I had no idea that you could do this.
But Derek, the cool thing about a lot of the broadcasters too, they like Steven and Andrew, they all hang out in these Google chats, and they're the most down to earth people, which artists, especially music artists, should take some notes from that. I mean, I'm coming from the music industry side, had a passion for broadcasting, like meeting Steven out in out in Vegas at NAB, and just humble cats, man. And they're like, yeah, man, let's chop it up. That's what I like about this broadcasting community, is the fact that there's so much unity in it, and like everybody kind of helps each other out, and technical standpoints. If someone's going, I come into Google Chats and sit there and listen, and they're going through mic tests to get their mics right. There's such a great community. That's what it's inspired me from the creative side. Like, wow, these guys are so mad cool, and they're really, really good people. And Derek, that's why I've been trying to pull you in. It's like, man, you should come out and hang out in some of these Google Chats, man, because you get a lot of information.
Jeff, I'll tell you, I have not been sober for one of those, so I have no idea what you're talking about.
Hey, but, on a side note though, too, I think it's gonna be my big prediction, my big Apple prediction for the year is that we are going to see an announcement from them for an Apple TV, like the real TV, like a big flat screen type of thing. I think it's gonna be a piece of glass essentially that will be the Apple TV with iOS integrated into it. And I think, what they did with the original Apple TV, with the little box you can buy now for $99 is, you can kind of a la carte put your own programming together, but nobody's really done it in such a way that you can like take podcasts, take live stream, take everything. You can line it all up in a playlist you can do on iTunes today, and then just have that channel roll 24/7 that you can tune into. And I think that that's where it's all going, and being able to, grab stuff from Ustream or Hulu or YouTube. That's I think Apple knows that that's where it was going, and Steve Jobs had always talked about Apple TV was this little experiment, he called it. And the only thing that's keeping the big cable companies together are ESPN and Fox News.
Yeah.
That's it.
Well, I think the days that the cable companies are it's going to be a slow death. They're not going to die overnight, but it's going to be a very slow death. I installed 2 Roku boxes in my mother-in-law's house, and you know what she's watching? She's watching Steven the Tech Buzz because he has an app, and the GFQ Network because I have an app. Hulu's on there, Netflix is on there, and a whole bunch of other channels are on there. So you really don't need to subscribe to the traditional cable systems anymore. I mean, you could get whatever you want anywhere at this point. And I think that's the difficult thing that they're facing. They're not adapting with the technology. They're fighting it at this point.
Yeah, I think it's only a matter of time that the cable companies and the way they package TV shows today. I mean, even the major networks with major shows now, they're scooping the cable channels now by starting to like give previews and pre-episodes and pilots and things like off their websites. This is the major networks. So if they're starting to dabble with that, the dominoes are going to fall pretty soon. Just stay tuned. So all the more important that programming like this or anybody else who's getting ready to get into broadcast, the doors are wide open.
Yeah, we got about 2 minutes till we close here, and I just want to thank Derek for coming on today, and talking about Microsoft history and just getting into this broadcast stuff, talking about broadcast, music industry stuff, and I also want to thank Andrew for last minute coming to hang out. He's been doing his Jerry's Lewis telethon all day, and taking numbers and all that good stuff. But yeah. Before we close, anybody in the chat room? I know we've been having some problems on the Big Gravity end. If there was any questions for Derek, we could take those. The stream is up. Good. So with that, any closing remarks from you guys before we close this thing out?
From us? Well,
yeah.
Just I guess stay tuned to to Microsoft in the mobile space. I definitely think they're going to be shaking things up there, and the new Xbox I think is very, very interesting. I actually, I get a lot of flack from my Microsoft buddies because I became an Apple fanboy after I left. And it's really only been the last handful of years because just their hardware is so great, and so it was really awesome seeing the stuff that's coming across on iOS 7. Apple's just killing it in the design area, and they're setting the bar high for Google and Microsoft. So stay tuned. There's a lot of warring and battling going on. Don't count Microsoft out.
Yeah, so with that, let's close. If you want to know what Derek's doing now, jamthehype.com and savethecities.com. And Andrew has a GFQnetwork.com. Is that right? GFQnetwork.com?
That is it. GFQnetwork.com. And if people want to follow me, they can follow me on Twitter at Andrew Zarian.
Guys, thank you so much for hanging out here at the Jeff Adams Show. I want to thank Stephen Haywood for producing the show. I know he's probably mad tired as well. He just did a show before this. So thank you, Stephen, so much for producing the show today. And guys, I'm off to Haiti, and I will see you guys next week. Peace out, homies. Until next time, TheJeffAdamsShow.tv.